So I'm Case.
I'm Adam.
I'm Nick.
And we all are going to talk about Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which we've all now seen, not all together. I've seen it twice now, actually, with both of these guys, because I really loved this movie.
Was this really your plot the whole time, to watch it with us so we can do this?
No.
Okay.
Which I have a question.
I thought it'd be great.
Wait, I have a question before we talk. Who was a better movie companion?
There's also no before we talk. It's
which-
recording, so
Before we talk
this is a
about
live feed.
Before we talk about the film.
Well, I went with a larger group when I went with Adam.
Right, but ours
versus
is more,
ours was intimate.
ours is
However,
more
he kept
intimate.
asking me questions where I'd be like, I want to tell you afterwards. Like,
Oh, I was trying to see. I think films are interactive, man.
anyway, so obviously spoilers abound because there's no good way to talk about this movie without talking about
Right.
a lot of spoilers. Aside from saying,
So-
it was good with good action.
So much of it is based in secrecy and mystery too.
Yeah.
That a lot of the revelations of the film are the most interesting things to
Yeah.
talk about.
that's a pretty good point. Spoilering this movie is like the key.
The only way you can talk
Right.
about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the movie is in itself a giant spoiler fu.
Basically. I mean, this movie totally rewrote the Marvel Universe. I love that part.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean, the big spoiler is that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been controlled by Hydra the whole time.
Right, and not only S.H.I.E.L.D., but
Yeah,
Hydra's
probably
been
the
controlling
equivalents on other sides.
other societies in Russia,
Yeah.
and
Which becomes almost
they didn't
immediately
say
moot, though.
They didn't say it completely, but it's pretty obvious. Like the whole, here's the thing: the Project Paperclip or whatever it's called, that was real. In fact, I was even looking at something that referenced it, totally unrelated to Captain America. Hadn't seen the movie yet. It was just like an article
right.
that had come out the same day and referenced it. So that's all totally true.
So the New York Times is actually controlled by S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes,
which
is
in turn is
controlled by
controlled by
Hydra.
I would think I've suspected that Fox News has been controlled by Hydra for a long time.
Well, the key argument is that it'd be Fox News and MSNBC.
And
And that's the argument that they make throughout.
Yeah.
That their whole goal is to try to have people fighting over everything and filled with fear. So it doesn't work if you all think the same thing. Everyone has to think the opposite of each other.
Right, and be afraid because of it.
Yeah. Which.
Hail Hydra.
Hydra.
Hail
No,
Hydra
that's how we have to end it. No, come on. You gotta wait for it.
At the beginning. I want a bookend. I like bookends.
Dude, the first time when I saw the first Captain America in theaters, I was sitting behind a group of probably 10 nerds who every time Hydra would do their thing, would simultaneously do the fist pump, and it went from being annoying to being hilarious to being really, really stupid by the end.
Well,
that's interesting that you bring that up because I think the first one had a lot of influence on the second one. I don't think you necessarily needed to see the first film to understand the events of the second. I mean, it's pretty much just
a couple little shout-outs.
Still the
Bucky,
still
you
the
get
fish out of water type situation.
the
Bucky thing is a little.
But here's the thing: you and I actually talked about this in regards to the first one. They really didn't. I mean, he was one of the Howling Commandos. He was a Howling Commando. He was his best friend, but they really don't build the Bucky Cap dynamic to the point where when he does die in the first one. First of all, I feel like a lot of people who saw the first one as soon as Bucky died realized he'd be coming back to the Winter Soldier. Second, obviously anyone who but as soon as they released the billing for Captain America 2, you knew exactly. Even if you didn't see the first one, you Sebastian Stan.
Right.
If you have Google, it gives away the
I don't.
what I want to say is the twist, but it's not even.
I have Bing, so I couldn't find
I
it.
have Yahoo search. So
But they do a good job of actually making Cap's
You can only
journey
ask Jeeves. He didn't know.
Cap's journey to figure out to find out that's Bucky. That's still meaningful, even though we all know it's coming. It's not like this is the big twist for the audience. It's Cap's big twist.
Right.
We get a big twist. Well, we get like 2 or 3 big twists.
Much bigger twist. I found the Bucky reveal not to be a spoiler that I cared about sharing. I told people it flat out because.
But it's not
if you watched
because
the trailer, you saw it. It's it's Bucky.
But his name is on. You can't not know it, unless you really are completely
I think that it would have been a bigger. I think that it would have been a bigger spoiler if they had, like you were saying, Adam, if they had set up the character more, because they really do kind of just gloss over the relationship.
He disappears for half of. He's like the Hawkeye of Act 1.
Exactly.
For half the movie.
He disappears in a lot, and if they had spent a majority of the first film building up that relationship, and you were like, They're really close. They're obviously really, really good friends. And then
or
he's
even see
gone.
them fighting together side by side at one time.
And then
you never
he's
just
gone,
see them doing Cap and Bucky.
And then he's gone at the end.
Yeah,
it would have meant a lot
or like
more.
Bucky snipes someone from behind, like Captain America's fighting, and all.
I
of a
think you
sudden
do see him with the sniper. I think you do.
Yeah,
right,
he's the
right,
sniper.
right. Actually, see
he's
that
the sniper
in
of the
action.
Right.
Right.
It's like, it's actually funny because like he's the one where you're like, really, you're part of like the elite strike force, and he kind of proves himself as the sniper.
Right.
But like we never see a great shot of being like, oh, after like of all these like elite fighters that Captain America picked out of like the escapees from like that.
You don't see that much of any of the commandos.
No,
you see, like they each get like one mini moment.
I mean, I guess I kind of just love Dum Dum Dugan, so
Yeah.
like
amazing,
the
yeah.
fact that they had him in Cap 1, I'm like, that's
Yeah,
great, and the fact that
yeah.
they had the equivalent of Union Jack, just no costume, like, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Right.
Speaking of which, what did you guys think of the first one? Like in relate, like I love.
It was not one of my favorite. It was not one of my favorite. Phase 1, Phase 2,
Phase
Phase
1.
one.
Cap was Phase 1.
Phase 1 movies. But it started the trend of like making, like we've talked about, different genres of the superhero movie. It doesn't need to be like as visually expansive as like a Thor kind of movie, but it's got its own kind of, because it has like, like the beginning when they're at the Stark Expo, and it's all like sepia tones. Like it actually like feels like a movie that was added to the 1940s, and it builds that like, it makes fun of itself. Like it builds that like, here's this corny superhero that it's very easy to make fun of, and we're actually going to make fun of him, but then he turns out to be pretty badass.
Yeah.
So I thought that journey was awesome.
It's like they say in Avengers, where it's like we've got a living legend who lives up to his own hype.
And I think Red Skull is actually a way better villain than most of the other, besides maybe Loki, but I mean, that's an easy choice. But I mean...
Well, of the Phase 1 villains, he was the most straight up a villain. Like, in Iron Man, it was Iron Man.
Absolutely, Jeff Bridges
Yeah, no,
was
Jeff-
the
no.
strongest,
No.
best villain choice.
He was a great villain, but
No,
he
but
wasn't,
he was good,
He
but
was
he
never
was-
that big of a
Here's-
threat.
But he's
Because
the
you don't
most
find
black
out
and white villain. Every other character
Right.
has like some weird relationship. Jeff Bridges, or like Ironmonger, like Obadiah Stane was like a father figure who betrayed like Tony Stark.
Well, also the reveal that he's a villain comes 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah, it's never
Red
like
Skull's never in doubt.
It's never clear. The dude has a red skull face.
Right.
He's
Even
probably
before that,
not helping anyone.
When he's
out.
talking about like overthrowing
Right.
Hitler,
Right.
I mean-
Anyone that stands in lines and suits and salutes like that, you
Yeah.
probably don't want to
No,
hang out with.
that's true. Like Abomination is over ambitious military guy, but aside from him going crazy at
who's
the
still
end,
redeemable.
right?
In
He's
fact.
still redeemable. I hold that they could still do it like a Secret Avengers movie with Winter Soldier, War Machine, and Abomination. Like he just wanted to-
Abomination.
he wanted to prove himself, but he, aside from him like going nuts in Harlem, like everything else was like just him being a soldier
And
from
trying to
the
take
side.
out. Right. He's just like a.
Who was
an
that
amped up
actor?
Ross.
Was that Ray Park?
No, that was
Inquiring minds want to know case. Oh, you can dub yourself in.
Yeah,
saying
you
the
have
actor.
to put one of those little links right here. There's
No,
gonna be a
guys,
little
this is
link
what-
to
this is
his
what- put
IMDb.
it right
here.
there,
It's
right there.
his IMDb.
Post-production.
no, it's the guy from Reservoir Dogs, like
Which one?
the young the young infiltrator of the police. Or,
Oh,
Yeah, like
Mr. Orange.
was he orange?
Yeah, Mr. Orange. Anyways, I about the first Captain America. I agree with you. I thought that the tone of the beginning was cool. It felt very rushed to me, and it felt kind of like they just made it. First off, I liked it better than Thor. I stand by that. I think
I love Thor.
I thought the first Thor was the poorest of all. Well, no, because the original Hulk was like.
Well, wait, Ang Lee Hulk's not
Absolutely.
part of Phase 1. Only the Incredible
And
Hulk.
Norton.
with-
Right,
yeah.
right. I mean, like it's mixed up, but I really thought that the first Captain America felt rushed. It felt like they kind of just.
But you're saying that it
made
was the second best Phase 1 movie minus Avengers, if you're talking right after Iron Man.
Captain America.
Yeah. It's all
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
I actually,
I'm not saying I thought it was a decent film. I was fine watching it. It was entertaining. I just thought it felt rushed, and it felt like they kind of just made it so that they had
Set up.
Captain America's
Yeah.
story done.
Well, he spent.
It felt kind of like they were like, "Who else do we have left to do? Okay, let's get this out of the way. Let's."
There's
get
no
this finished."
build-up
It was
to
a
his
great
living
setup
legend.
for the other movies,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel like to me. It didn't feel like Captain America got what he was due, which is why I like this one so much because I felt like I got a much better handle on the character. Hugo Weaving was also robbed. He was fucking great, and Red Skull is a great villain. He should have gotten way better.
He's not counted out yet either.
I think the problem is.
I know. I hope they'll bring him back.
I would have liked the first one to have been longer. I actually stand by the first. The first one being
Which
the second
would have
best
helped
of
it
the
not be as
non-Avengers Phase 1 movies. And I've always said that I think it's actually probably the smartest in that it ties all those movies together leading into the Avengers.
That's what I mean. It was like very calculated. The making of the film.
Honestly, if that montage of like the Howling Commandos and Cap
was like twice, like 5 times longer.
If it was bigger,
how long was he actually How long were you supposed to?
2 years.
Because he's fighting the World War.
Because
it feels like a couple months.
Yeah, it's 1943 to 1945. And they
you don't get that sense at all that there's any progression.
No.
You don't get the sense like
it felt like a few months. That was what
max.
Right. It should have been way bigger. But I actually just watched the 1990 Captain America movie.
I saw you
with
posted
Matt Salinger over the weekend, and oh my god, it is hilariously bad. It's like the perfect MST3K movie. But here's the worst part about it: Captain America, who is just a code name, they're like, we're not going to disclose his identity to the rest of the military. So his code name is Captain America. Goes on one mission, fails that mission, and gets frozen in ice.
Hero.
No, it's frozen in ice. So no one even knows who he is. When he dethaws, no one has a clue who he is. The president only knows who he is because he happened to witness him as a little boy.
Wow.
He's like, remember that boy? Remember that guy with the helmets that I snapped a picture of when I was a child? He's back. He's back. And then the president, who in this like stupid montage, they go to say like, look how much the time has changed since the 40s to now, is an impressive military leader who then, after leaving Vietnam and like being like well decorated, went off joined the Peace Corps and like did all this awesome stuff. So the president is basically the superhero in this. He gets kidnapped, but he fights. He's the one who breaks himself out, and he fights his way out. And it's just that Captain America happens to arrive in time to face off against the Italian Red Skull.
The Italian Red Skull.
It is such a bad movie.
Wow.
It's hilarious.
That's great.
It basically looks like that.
Like tomato sauce.
So they actually at least set up like this Cap movie way more than the Red Brown ones, or way more than the Matt Salinger one. Actually had him being like a hero that you could respect. Like I wish it was longer, but at least we had high stakes. We had cool people. It felt like a 1940s movie.
Yep.
Like that was all really cool.
Which was actually my biggest complaint about the second one, which is it started with his hairstyle, which I think you mentioned.
I said that. I hate that.
But like it was just it felt like there wasn't enough of that 40s feel, you know, like he was, and it's good that he's adapted now to like it shouldn't always be, you know, I'm stuck in the 40s and I can't keep up with these newfangled inventions. But there was just very little throw, considering all like the whole basis of, besides the Zola scene, the whole basis of like Cap, all the villains, everything was rooted in 70 years ago. But I don't get that.
But that's the thing, though, is they tie. I mean, yeah, it was him in a more contemporary time, and his style and way of doing things was more contemporary. But I think that spoke to how adaptive he is as a character.
Yeah.
The fact that he was, and it does kind of tie in because they have the whole Hydra thing, and they're like, oh, by the way, when they have the great bit about the what is this technology? Like, these computers are too big to fit through the door. That bit was great. The 50s computers, and you know, what is his name? The German scientist comes back and he's like, guess what? We've been here basically, like, I've still been active since World War II.
But again, I wish we had seen more of that, like more like shots of the Winter Soldier, like throughout history, more shots of like Hydra.
Sure,
not just just so you know, Hydra's been here this whole time.
Yeah,
like,
I think
how
the
and why
Soldier,
and what.
I think he definitely.
This movie is another one that, even though it's a long movie, I felt could have been longer, and I would have been fine. You know, the hair thing I mentioned, it's actually the one thing I dislike about Cap specifically in this movie.
I also disliked.
I wish it's like with his hair spiked. Well, actually, yeah. So hair in general.
The hair in general.
But so Cap's hair was like spiked, and it looked.
It's cute.
No, Cap's hair was like spiked, and I didn't care for that because like in both of the movies we've seen him before, it's like combed over, and he feels like Cap. With his hair spiked, he looks like Chris Evans.
Yeah,
it was like a weird choice there. Scarlett Johansson also on that note, like her straightened hair. I was like, why? Like they've had a hard time with her hair because she looked the best in Iron Man 2, but it was impractical hair.
I don't remember what she looked like.
In Iron Man 2, she had
the
long,
wavy
wavy hair, which was great for her, like infiltrating like Stark. but it is a horrible thing for her to get into a fight with. Like, you would tie your hair back or have it like bunned up or something.
I thought she looked
well,
great.
That's not a result of the waviness. It's the length. It's the same, but it's the same
I thought
length.
she looked great in Avengers.
Avengers. I I didn't love the hairstyle, but it was definitely more practical. This time it was like just a little bit long, or it was just long enough that it could get in her face, and it, like the straightness of it, like still.
She just didn't. She also didn't look as attractive, I thought, with the straight hair. And I was surprised, and I completely respect.
It looked
how
like
much
a bad hair day to me. It was
it
really
did, but that's
to be
the thing.
fair.
Is Black Widow would never have a bad hair day, like ever. And I completely respect that they made her a very independent character in this. There were I always joke with my friends about how, and I think we've talked about this, about how Avengers could have been subtitled, like Ass Time with Captain America and Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
There were so many shots where the camera just like panned down and like her donk.
They know their audience.
They
know their
They
audience.
absolutely know their audience, and that was great. I mean, I'm not complaining.
There was a shot early in the movie where the group we were all in, like they like panned down to like Black Widow's butt, and like all of us was like.
But see, that's the thing. They've already established her as like a sexy femme fatale. But they've done that. They did it in Avengers 2 in that interrogation scene. Now it's just like a buddy cop movie. Her and Cap like doing the job, and it's not always about like.
Right.
Which again,
I get that, but she didn't feel like. I love that they made her completely independent and as great of an ass kicker as one of the guys. But she wasn't. She didn't feel as much fun as she did in the Avengers. She seemed like she was having more fun in the other one, and maybe some of that is rooted in the sexuality of the character. She certainly wasn't as sexy in Captain America to me, and I think that would have been more important to have to make sure that they had like a total antithesis between the two.
Yeah,
because Captain America.
Are you saying Chris Evans is not sexy?
No, I'm saying Captain America is not sexy. He is completely. He's a total square. Absolutely. Well, the whole movie, he's like, I don't like girls. When she's like, hook up with. No, I know, but she's like.
No, I was reading something that Jeff was like, where
he's like, no.
From the Shield Mall, They do.
They go to the fucking mall. They're looking for Stacy at the mall.
Well,
can I say that?
There was a great article that I was reading where it talks about how like there's a not surprising number of super heroine characters or just like female characters in general in the Marvel universe who have awful daddy issues. And if you take Captain America, who sounds like their dad but looks like a male model, he cleans up, and it's true in the comics. He does not do bad for himself.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I really
they set up what's her name, Sharon Carter.
Yeah, Sharon Carter.
Right? Yeah.
I was kind of disappointed. I really wanted to see some romance between the two of them. I wanted some.
What?
Black
Widow or
I thought there was some weird flirting going on, but like
a little bit. But there's a scene where he's shirtless and like she's in a tank top and they're in.
But I'm glad
Falcon's
they did
house and
that.
there's
like
because that's easy. That's easy.
Yeah.
And they hint at it.
I didn't feel. I really didn't get.
Cap is an awkward enough person that like his one true love he was still awkward with, let alone like just any random girl.
That's true. He is still attached to.
Plus, you don't really see them that much in their downtime. Like it's so easy to do the sexual tension when we're like facing our death in the mission.
But they didn't.
But like and they also have like.
I thought it was smarter that way.
To
like Cap is still adapting. I love the little notebook he had when he was talking.
That was really funny.
And it was like, I'll take that note.
It was on there. Thai food.
Yeah.
Thai food was on that list.
Yeah.
I would be like, bro, that would have been my number one.
I want to see that entire. I want to freeze from that entire list.
That would be really funny.
And what would you tell someone from the 40s? You have to. You have to.
I think
Falcon.
I
think they did great.
Falcon was good.
I
wanted to see his shooting thing. What the feather things that he shoots? His like energy things.
Well, that's only in certain versions, but like
I liked how simple he was.
Yeah,
I really liked. No, I liked it. I was like, what can Captain America and Black Widow not do? Fly.
Yeah, but then you put him up against any of the other flyers in the Marvel U that they've already established.
But they didn't have anyone with like powers like that in the Marvel U.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man can fly
in that movie. Yeah, but in Captain America,
right? But assuming he's going to become a part of the Avengers.
Let's talk about why they would go with Falcon, and then why they did him the way they did. Like Falcon's a longtime sidekick of Captain America, so it made sense to introduce him as part of the supporting cast.
He's black.
He is a black character, so that's nice to have extra people. Mm-hmm. But then the take they did on him, going with the military route, like this was just a superhero-ified version of like the glider suits that we actually do have.
Yeah.
We I mean, they have shot painful
Yeah, you were
amounts of
telling
footage
me
about
about
that.
that.
So that was really
they're
cool. In a
actual
world where
things.
there's like rocket packs and so forth, why wouldn't you have like an independent flying as opposed to just?
But his skill set is
Control
also
fall.
very impressive. It's not just it's a normal. It's like a
Right.
A
He
military
does
thing.
what does he say? I do. When he's talking about
I
Captain
did-
America, he says, "I do everything he does, just
slower,
slower."
yeah.
It's very true. Yeah.
I thought he was great. I thought the reason he connected with Captain America as like the being a veteran counselor at this point who has a background in flight, not being an active member right now, I thought worked really well for like setting him up as an empathetic character.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be terrified to see what he would do if he was given an Iron Man suit.
Yeah.
Like, I think he would do.
That's the thing.
job.
That's the thing that always baffles me. It's like they have all these characters that are only matched to it. Like there are so many characters that they can easily upgrade with an Iron Man suit, and like Tony Stark is just a dude. He brings nothing special to the table besides his brain, which obviously they do a really good job of showing off in Iron Man. No, but I mean in terms of combat ability, if you put, and I know they do, but if you put a Cap in an Iron Man suit, it's like why do you need Iron Man?
Well, but that's why it was important in Avengers to show him actually having to repair stuff in the Iron Man suit.
Well, and I was going to say, and also in Iron Man 3,
Iron
he's
Man
actually
3,
like
he does
a
a
lot
lot of
outside
that. I think
suit
that's
stuff,
I think that's good.
that was
because,
needed, yeah.
I mean, just just coming from where I thought the movie was strongest in Iron Man 3 was actually when he was outside.
The suit,
well,
yeah.
And working.
Speaking of suits, I loved the new Captain America suit in this one. Now, obviously, there was like a message of it all, where it's like very dark navy and black with like some silver highlights as opposed to like full on red, white, and blue. It looked great as a military uniform. You could see like paneling that was like kind of like Kevlar components to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like that all looked great to me. I was okay with him going back to like.
I would have loved to see him get shot at some point and see how it
see
repelled.
how it held up. But I thought it was a great look. And oh my god, both that and the retro suit he wore so much better than the costume in Avengers.
Yeah, I know.
Like the worst part about the Avengers was the Captain America
and they
costume.
did a really good job of pulling off the retro suit in the with Stan Lee's terrible cap. He's got to stop. They're so bad. The Stan Lee cameos, they're so worthless.
Dude, he'll never.
No,
you're not out for
They're a
Hitchcock.
fun thing.
They're not that
They're
fun.
a fun
He's not going to be in
thing.
Guardians of the Galaxy though.
Well, good. We don't
because
need
he does not take any ownership personally. He said like they offered it to me and I said no, I don't feel any connection to these characters.
Well, good for him. Okay.
So
I don't think he's alone.
Well, we'll see on that one.
What was the number one reaction when that trailer came out? Who?
Oh, I was excited.
Well, you, the average, the normal person. So when it's Captain America, like,
Case
Captain
was
America.
like, Case pulled out a dossier on each of the guys, fucking longer than what the prison people had. My reaction was, isn't that the green chick from Star Trek? She's so fucking hot. That was what I was.
Why is that hamster so angry?
Right, exactly. What animal is that? They have those in New York. No, I thought it was cool. I liked the suit and everything. I would like to talk about the villains of the movie if we can. Winter Soldier and Robert Redford as the politician.
Let's do Winter Soldier first since he's the title character of it. Watching the ending of it, I felt it was just the exact scene of Cold Stone from Gargoyles. Like when he Goliath falls into the water and he goes in and wrestles him.
And grabs him. But see, here's the thing. Cap the story is left wide open, and I've got a feeling they're not going to even touch it at any point. Cap doesn't remember. He doesn't know that Bucky saves him. So in his mind, he's like still in the mission of fighting the Winter Soldier. So his movie, that movie doesn't
trying
end.
to save him. So like if Bucky shows up and is talking to him, I think Cap would be open to that scenario.
Right, no, but his mission is stop the Winter Soldier, who is a villain. He doesn't know that Bucky. I mean,
he knows it's Bucky, and he was actively trying to save Bucky.
He literally said, "I'm not going to fight you."
Right.
No, I know, but that doesn't mean he's going to stop looking for him and trying. Like
at the end
there
of
needs
the
to be
movie,
like
he says
Cap
explicitly he's going to go look for him. But and that's
Well,
all.
are we going to see that?
Cap 3, we probably will see that. Maybe even Avengers 2.
Right.
But that's just going to be like whenever they finally encounter each other, it's really down to what Bucky does.
Right,
first.
the ball's in his court.
Cap's not going to hit him first.
No,
or if he does, it's going to be like a trank dog.
I think what the movie was trying to hint at, and there were two special endings at the end, as there always are. It's so funny whenever you see a Marvel movie because the credits roll and everyone's like, "Yep," like.
Well, no, but then there's always
the
first. There's always the first teaser at the end, and then half of people leave.
I don't know how it was when you guys went, but 3/4 of the audience left.
Yeah,
we did, and you and I stayed for the last.
People
the
doing?
very last
Are they
bit.
not aware?
Everyone in our group was going to remember Brogan and my brother.
Yeah, Brogan tried to leave. I'm like, what are you doing?
But I think what they were trying to hint at.
It wasn't worth it.
at the
well,
end. It was
fun,
like
but
4 seconds.
I think it was as worth it as like the Tony Stark talking to
No, that was cool because that was
more
funny.
worth it.
That was funny.
That
The
was
shawarma,
funny.
same
Talking to Mark
thing.
Ruffalo, yeah.
But the Bucky thing is like, okay, great. Like we already got that he was already
Yeah.
on the road to reform.
Yeah, I
We
think
didn't need
that's
that.
what it was trying to say was that like
Over.
I think what they were trying to say with that is that their Winter Soldier is choosing to break off from whatever control Hydra or whatever had on him, so he's going to be kind of like a lone wolf thing, which is smart for the second Avengers movie if they choose to have Hydra in it. Like if that plays
Which they
a
will
factor,
because
they don't
Strucker's
have
in
to
it.
have Winter Soldier in it. They can make it more of a like group thing of fighting Hydra without having to pay a lot of special screen
Or
time
even
to
Hydra
Captain
just mentioning
America dealing with
our rogue
Bucky.
soldier who's now
Yeah.
MIA or at large or whatever.
If they get to that mention, I mean, Iron Man or Avengers 1 did not make any reference either to Abomination or War Machine, and War Machine especially would have been.
Yeah, that would have made sense. But right. I mean, it would just be something to set up, considering there's a good chance they're going to make a bigger deal out of Bucky later on.
I mean, I hear there was a lot cut from Avengers, which I would love to see, of like Captain America stuff.
Yeah.
Like originally it was going to be much more Cap focused,
Hmm.
and I have a feeling there's a lot that was cut. Like the biggest thing I disliked about this movie in relation to the Winter Soldier was I would have liked to see more of the flashbacks, like when Steve's coming home from his mom's funeral, and just there with Bucky.
And Bucky.
A flash
That was great.
That would have been so helpful. I don't know why they didn't have that in the
two
beginning.
more of those. Like they,
Because it shows that
or
Bucky's
just one more. Like after he
it shows
goes
Bucky's
off.
character that you barely get in the first Cap.
Yeah, like when he goes to the museum and he sees Bucky Barnes' thing, he should have had a flashback there. He didn't. I mean, or I think he had like a quick cutaway to something, like, or maybe they just like then he turned and saw footage of something. I forget exactly.
But I think there was like
there should have
there's
been
the announcer voiceover of talking Bucky Barnes. Blah,
yeah,
blah, blah,
we
blah.
had two good moments of young skinny Steve. One was that like
It's amazing
when he's at the base.
I think that's so
and he
cool.
like runs by, and that's sort of like it's like I remember being this young.
That was
and
great.
then also the flashback where we see him talking to Bucky. I would have liked to see another flashback of him talking to Bucky as either young Steve or even better, like
as Cap during the war.
Like,
Well, that goes back to what we were saying. As cool as the Winter Soldier was, you didn't really get the emotional reverberances that you would have gotten with more build up to what that downfall meant to Cap and what it meant to Bucky too, and why that struggle. Like, it felt like a very kind of cliched struggle. Like, okay, now Bucky is good. You know, it didn't feel you didn't really get.
Well, like I said, it felt that it was almost shot for shot this exact scene that we've seen in a lot of fiction, where it's like old friend from the past, now tormented enemy of today. Like,
and
farewell. I've been looking for you.
Well, it was like Cold Stone. I referenced like that plot, but
Yeah.
leading up to it, where he's like, "I'm not going to fight you," looked just like the scene of Burai from Jew Ranger / Green Ranger and Power Rangers. Like that whole like conflicted ally from the past who's now like who's either under mind control or just really confused.
Right.
Now getting into a fight, and by refusing to fight him, you then force him to actually come to terms with his memories and like remember what's actually going on.
I wish we knew more about. I mean, we see a little glimpse of what they do to him, but I wish we had seen more either in Cap 1
and
with the experiments.
and it wasn't very clear, like what it was supposed to do.
Well, I think they leave it purposely vague. Like, I don't necessarily
his perspective. They show
right.
it.
I don't mind not knowing the specifics of like, did they give him a serum? Did they like what exactly they did? But more just like the kind of psychological torment they must have put him through, or something showing, because it's like they kind of cop out. They're like, okay, let's give him another dose of evil now, and then they cut away. It's like, let's
wipe him.
Wipe him. I mean, what does that really? What does that mean? They just clear his memory every time.
Well, and actually, that's
show him a video of Cap eating babies.
What it looked like was it looked like a shock therapy.
Yeah.
And that was known to cause like massive brain damage and wipe out memory cells.
Right, but it's less intriguing to me that they just kind of clear him every time, because then he doesn't build. Then his feats don't build. Like, I want him to remember, like, I shot JFK, if that's one of the things he did.
Like if some of that's like muscle memory stuff, like his
training.
Yeah, like the way you never forget a bicycle. Like he he's gotten better as a fighter, but he doesn't remember how he got better as a fighter.
Yeah.
Kind of like how,
He's like a Bourne.
like in Memento, how
Right.
like, it's like you just condition yourself to put things in certain pockets. You condition yourself to do like have certain reactions.
Yeah. Tattoo shit all over your body.
Yeah. You're Bucky. You're Bucky.
You're Bucky.
Don't hurt Cap. No,
He's staring at the mirror with
What
his shirt
dicks
off.
look like?
Who am I?
It's like every time he remembers, he like makes sure to like scratch himself in.
Yeah.
Don't forget you're Bucky.
I don't know. I thought they did a bang up job with him. I thought also Robert Redford was awesome.
Yeah, I thought
just
he was
wish,
great.
and I know this is like a pandering thing to ask for as like a lower fan of the Marvel stuff, but like I kind of wish there was a reveal of him as an actual Cap villain, and not just another guy who's
politician.
part of Hydra.
I mean, he is a character in the comics, like that. Like he.
But
like
doesn't he turn out to
Alexander
be? I thought he turned out
What's
to
he
be Red
named?
Skull.
Is it
Alexander Pierce.
Pierce? Okay.
Yeah, I think they didn't want to go too over. Like the fact that they had Zola in almost
That
his
was the
perfect
coolest,
version
yeah.
of like Zola. Like,
Oh,
with
he wasn't
it's-
in his Krang
Well,
body.
no, he didn't have like
TV,
robot
body.
arms attached to
Yeah,
it.
that's
but,
for
like,
Avengers too.
At least he had the screen, and I love the way that it was like zoomed in just on the eyes and like
Yeah.
the nose. It looked really creepy with the
Very
exact
hungry.
like really retro camera moving
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Like that was a great.
Which is also
He
weird
was-
because
he was
wasn't that.
terrifying.
He wasn't that. He was like a little nebbish loser. In
Yeah,
the first one.
Right.
So it's
I
nice to
thought
see
he
how
was
he actually
almost like comedic. I was like, this
Yeah.
guy's going to be a funny,
right.
you know, kind of bad guy.
And I
then
wish we'd
was
seen a
like,
little
oh,
more of the
he's
connection
scary.
from Cap One, like scared, like under Red Skull's like shadow Zola, to the Zola that obviously took over Hydra and like made everything
well, and that would have
crazy.
been more of like the Winter Soldier flashback stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
We have a shot of him being
Because you don't
creepy
see
looking
Zola
over-
after Red Skull gets taken out,
Right.
basically. But obviously he grew a pair, and then
Yeah.
lost them along with everything else.
I
that
liked.
took place.
Let me say this is that I totally agree with you guys that I think that they should have had more Captain America, Bucky flashback things. But I really liked the choice to not talk about Hydra a lot in the beginning of the
That I
movie and
agree
not
with,
have a lot of references.
Yeah.
Because when they were in the bunker and that happened, and he was like, "I've been looking like myself, blah blah blah," and I was working for myself with Hydra, I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've been active the whole time, and it also felt like I also felt rewarded for having
Not
sat
a bash
through
over your head.
the
Yeah.
first one and seen it, because the first one to me felt so much like, okay, we're just making this because we have to. It really felt like, wow, that means a lot, and it's worth so much more now
And not
that
just
I
for
know
Cap.
what Hydra is.
Well, yeah. Also,
and for the whole universe.
For America,
yeah.
I mean, for like, imagine if that was
For
our-
America.
Imagine if the CIA for the past 70
Right.
years was really like a KGB.
Well,
front or
that's
something.
that's
Yeah.
another thing entirely. How effective and how scary that I mean, using that
That was the moment they
idea
like
that
really
is a
raised.
fear
Yeah.
Americans actually have,
Mhm.
and being like, and using that in a film, and not only utilizing those fears in a film, but having a super evil,
Yeah.
super villain organization
and not just
control
one
it.
organization.
That's
I mean, like, how much did you love having Gary Chandler's senator from Iron Man 2
that was a great call that you
Yeah.
caught that. Yeah.
turning out
Hydra.
to be one of Hydra's people?
Yeah.
Like, he's controlling
That aspect.
like that person who was trying to make Tony Stark's life miserable in Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
right.
Oh, it's
And
actually
you're like,
all
oh,
part
he's
of
just
the
a
plot.
jerk.
This is what I'm
Right,
saying.
yeah.
Like, that reveal was so big,
Comprehensive,
like,
too.
It
Yeah.
actually modifies everything we knew about these
Mhm.
books.
Yeah.
Or about these
And it
characters.
brings Phase 2 and then everything they do from now on
Yeah.
to a much higher level where now, like, Iron Man 3 was great, but it really ended up, it really still was a Tony Stark story and about him,
Yeah.
really. And
I think
You
that
know.
too. A huge part of that is Robert Downey Jr. And he's just
He just
such a
conquers the-
charismatic, magnetic actor that the film can't not be, a lot about.
Right,
yeah.
him
But also,
whenever
Cap's
he's in
Cap's
it.
whole thing, his whole presence is about the defender of America. I mean, it's not like I'm just a hero. Like he's
Right,
he's
yeah.
an American soldier, so it has to relate to.
Well, he's a raw good figure, whereas all the other characters, like Thor, his arc is like, I'm an arrogant but powerful person learning to be a hero. Iron Man's like, I am smart and already affluent. I'm learning to take responsibility. Captain America was always a good person. He may not have had power of action when he was weak, but like
Right.
he's always been.
He's not
his,
conflicted. He's just
yeah,
conflicted about the stuff happening
his
outside of him.
hero's journey happened well before we ever saw it
Right.
on screen.
Right.
Like he, the whole time, was already like all set to go.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, this is easily my favorite of the Phase 2 movies. I think I've actually I refer to it being kind of like an X-Men 2 or like, I don't want to say Dark Knight exactly because Dark Knight is so good, but like it felt like it's one of those movies that because there's this touch of realism, like all the military operations, all these things, just with like a hint of like the superpowered world. I feel like it can really relate to people who aren't big like superhero fans. Like you don't need to deal with a person. I was about to say you don't need to deal with a person flying, but you can deal with a person flying if he's got like a glider kit. You know, like. Everything about it was like very much in the realm of like I can buy this. Like so he's really fast. He can run laps around people, but like it's not something like out of this world.
Right,
class.
he's
like,
just an Olympic,
right.
a super Olympian.
And coming from you know like an actor's point of view too, I thought it was really cool to watch a superhero, for lack of a better word, movie that had a lot of like CGI and special effects, but when they needed it for like spaceships and shit like that. But so much of the fighting and the conflict was just really incredible.
The fight choreography.
The choreography was fantastic, and I'm a huge like stage combat fan, and I thought that shit was incredible. That one, and
like,
they
matchup with that truck, like,
right? And they like made jokes of it and made specific points to be like, no, this is how we did this, and we're shooting it specifically for that, not just tons of punches. Like when Batroc does the kick, and it almost nails Captain America in the groin, and there's like the shot of the kick, and they both look down and look up, and you're like, that was really well done. Yeah. It was really funny.
Actually, that I will say is the best thing about this movie in relation to other superhero movies. Easily the best fight choreography of.
Fantastic.
Well, you need it for Cap. You need it for Cap. I mean,
but so much better than any of the Batman movies. Like, you know, that's
Well,
and that's the thing. Like, so I would say this is easily the smartest of all of the superhero movies we've seen from at least from Marvel so far.
Yes, okay, from Marvel,
with the best like real world ramifications of things, like all this character stuff. I thought worked really well all together. Like. With a great tone, where it was a good balance of like, here's the shades of gray that we live in like a spy kind of society.
Yeah.
But Captain America is straightforward black and white.
Yeah. That was the cool part of it.
You know, I noticed when I was at Comic-Con last year that the weird part was all the kids were dressed up as Captain America. They weren't dressed up as Superman anymore. And it's really funny to see Captain America as kind of taken that position of being like, oh, this is the symbol of a hero that we want to give to the kids. And if they grow up and learn about like conflict and so forth, like, oh yeah, they'll go Spider-Man or like Iron Man.
Yeah.
But like Marvel's like
he's the hero they need, not the hero they deserve to want to need.
Like Captain America and like Marvel is really like taken over like a cultural position that used to be occupied solely by Superman and Batman. I mean, even like back when I was a kid, like the Adam West Batman was still like the #1 way people remembered him. Like, you know, the Tim Burton one only came out when I was. Like, Tim Burton came out when I was 5 or 6. Like, that, up until that point, like, I was obsessed with the Adam West Batman. He was just a straight up, like,
hilarious
hero. Like, there was no darkness to him whatsoever.
Not at all.
And parents were like, oh, yeah, Batman. He's a great superhero.
It's silly. Right? Yeah, it was fun. I mean, Cesar Romero is still my favorite Joker.
By far.
The painting, the white over the mustache. He refused to fucking shave his mustache.
And it's like blonde with like green highlights.
Yes, it's great. It was like, he was like, you know, he was in the car rushing to get to work and did all of his shit on the way, like at the stoplight. He was like,
God damn, I nicked myself. Whatever. We'll just
make
up
that
part of the list.
Right, I'll just make up that up.
Do I have time to shave? No, I
don't. Do I want it? No, I don't. What are they paying me for that? No. Yeah, I totally agree with you though. I love that they're bringing it back.
Yeah.
That it was a great installment.
So in conclusion, I'd say I love this movie. I thought, again, best of the Phase 2 movies so far. And easily the smartest of all of them.
Yeah, Adam. I love it. I love that it raised the stakes for all the future Marvel movies and actually set up a more comprehensive world than I think even Avengers did, considering it was a team movie. And yeah.
Ooh, on that note, I actually want to address a concern people have had about the Marvel movies now. Now that we have the Avengers, and it's like, oh, why don't people connect you? Like, why didn't Tony Stark ever just call up Bruce Banner during Iron Man 3? I think actually all three of them have done an okay job of giving you a sense of the urgency where you couldn't do that.
Well, a lot of the finale events take place in the span of like half an hour.
Right. Iron Man 3 I think had the hardest time because he was traveling cross country for part of that, but he was also purposely staying off the grid. Thor was taking place mostly in another dimension.
Right.
And this one took place so fast, and I don't think he could. I think he was so afraid of calling people.
Yeah.
Because like the second,
he's also so
He
noble.
didn't
He doesn't
trust
want
the
anyone
second
else
one,
to
he like
get
stepped
hurt,
into a
too, is
mall.
big thing.
Shield agents were popping up around him. Let
Right.
alone like if he tried calling Tony Stark, who's the most likely person for him to call if he needs like outside support.
Right.
Like, even if he gets Tony Stark directly, let alone not Tony's assistant or something.
Right.
Right, or his 40 assistants will
Yeah.
have to go through.
They just need their Avengers.
And
cards.
that's if
Well, yeah.
Tony
Eventually,
makes his
eventually
call.
you'll get the little communicators.
The little-
the
maybe
thing in the
maybe
sky.
these 3 movies are going to be why they introduce it in the next one. Being
Yeah.
like, all right, so we need some actually good.
Like, did
communication
anything go down for you guys since the last
Like,
time?
yeah, right.
Anything
Yeah,
happen?
where's the category? And that's the
Right.
thing, that's the great thing is that this actually supports, like, all the other movies are like, oh, superhero teams are bad, we don't need rogues, but finally it's the big government shield thing that's like, okay, now you guys fucked up, now we really do need this, like, we do need a team. You know, not just Nick Fury says we need a team, like, no one's gonna trust anything for a while except for, like, true blue heroes like they get in the Avengers.
And I was glad that they didn't kill him off. Because I felt...
Nick Fury?
Yeah,
You actually
I thought...
to kill him off?
I thought they were going... Well, I thought they were going to in the beginning because I was like, okay, they need to... I was like, they're doing it, you know, to be a big deal because he's such an important character. And I was glad that they didn't because I thought that that would have been a cheap, dramatic way to get Cap more emotionally.
It would have been cheap either
way.
way.
I wasn't
mean,
sure. Here's the thing. The way they killed him off and brought him back made perfect sense to me, but the other 2 options that I had in my head were they actually killed him and they brought him back just like Coulson,
yeah.
or like
Yeah.
Donald Decoy, and we finally got that. Like
That would have been nice, yeah, I know.
But it doesn't matter. Nick Fury has died more times in comics and come back to life than Phoenix. Like, he's died. It's probably more than Professor Xavier. Like,
yeah.
It's too bad, man. I wish Mace Windu wishes he had that same.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
Oh, shit.
Nobody wishes
did
that.
you see on the tombstone, the path of the righteous man, Ezekiel, whatever, like the Pulp Fiction quote that he always would say? It was on his tombstone. Yeah.
What did
I
that's
did
such
not.
a great
That's-
shout out.
that's awesome.
Funny.
Yeah.
That's real fun. So for my, do you mind if I
Yeah,
say
go
my
for
closing thing? I thought that it was, I thought that it was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was the Marvel took it in kind of a darker, grittier place, and I really thought that that was great because Captain America is such a bright, shining character, and I thought the juxtaposition of that worked really well, and also made watching the first movie feel really rewarding. I think it definitely enriched Cap's world.
So would you say 2 big Hydra fists up?
2
Hell